in Philadelphia. And time for the best show ever. Now, your starting lineup. Bring in the heat. Ricky Calico. Hunter. Brody. Jen Scordo. And finally, your host, Tyrone Johnson. It's the best show ever. On 97.5, the Fanatic, Philadelphia.
Good afternoon. Oh, it feels good to have a winner in town. So much to get to here. Everybody in studio here on 97.5 The Fanatic and NBC Sports Philadelphia. So let's get right to our opening statements. Yes, and we start with the word of the day. And there's only been one word of the day today, and that, of course, is playoffs. Playoffs, because the road was long. There were a lot of potholes. Perhaps AAA had to be called a few times. There were some rookie mechanics that had to come out there and change a tire. Then they get under the tire and they realize, the rim's bad. They got to replace that. Then they find out the brakes were bad. But it doesn't matter because the Phillies, with a win, by the way, not with a back end, with a victory, clinched the playoff spot right now. And I said it out loud that I was emotionally detached until this team clinched. Well, they clinched, so I'm back. They did what they had to do. It took a little longer than I would have liked, if I'm being honest, but none of that matters now. And boy, was the celebration big. Boy, was that celebration big. Last night, they went all out. Now, obviously, it was allowed because they didn't back in. They got in via themselves. Now, we're not going to do I told you shows along the way because all of us at different times have been wrong about this team. But I'm going to say this today. The one recurring thing that Ricky Calico, who will speak in just 1 second a bit, said to him a million times, to Hunter Brody, to myself, over and over again was about one Kyle Schwarber, a guy who entered the game with 44 home runs, and constantly people are saying that player should be playing less baseball, not more. And they say, well, I didn't mean that. What you meant was you wanted him to get to the plate less. Well, let me tell you something. Last night, if we learned nothing else, Nola was glorious. We will get to how glorious he was. Right away, first fastball he saw of the game, he puts it into the seats, gives that team a 1-0 lead, and therefore Nola, while it wasn't a lot of room, he pitched every inning with a lead. Right away, 1-0, boom, and I absolutely think that helped set the tone for how good he was. He was good on his own, but Schwarber leading off, yes, because if he's batting fifth, he may not get up because he's not a bad cleanup because you have a left-hander. Anyway, you saw why. I'm not saying everything's perfect. I'm saying if you want to talk about that next year, but can we just table that discussion until after the playoff series? Because I can tell you he's going to lead off then. And if they go to St. Louis or they go to New York or if they go to Atlanta, which I guess hypothetically could still happen, and pitch number one in the playoffs, he hits a home run, are we going to be complaining? This team, we'll talk about who was the most valuable player on the team, who the Cy Young Award win, all the good things with this team. But boy, does it feel good to actually be in and not have to worry about what happened in September, to not have to worry about their last 11 years. Right now, the only thing we have to worry about in a studio that's 500 degrees is that the Phillies are in the playoffs. Credit also to Rob Thompson. This does not happen. I was a cheesy tweet, but I was just feeling it. That the missing P now stands for playoffs. Yeah, it's bad, but I was in the moment, okay? I was feeling it like they were feeling it. I was watching NBC Sports Philadelphia's coverage. I'm looking on social media. These guys got the phones going. Alvarado gives the speech of the year. Who would have thought? Who would have predicted? I'll give you $1 billion of someone else's money if you have some documentation that you predicted that the player that would have the best speech for the Phillies in years would be Alvarado. It's just a great feeling. I know we usually go to Hunter first, but on a day like today, We got to go to the closer. Ricky Bo, you were working last night. The Phillies are back in the playoffs.
They are back. Are you kidding me? Nola, man, I said to you earlier, I'm kind of happy he didn't throw a perfect game. We'll get to that in a little while of why. But, man, everything just went well last night. Nola was outstanding. How about Eflin? What the hell is going on? This guy comes in out of nowhere, and he's closing out games now. That's beautiful. Alvarado, man, this guy is a stud. He has turned himself completely around into probably the second half of the season, the best reliever in baseball. And it is 90 degrees in here, by the way. And anyways, you know, when you look at this team as a whole, I think, you know, all the, I wouldn't say bad talk about them, but all the kind of pushing, I think it was because everybody thought they should have made the playoffs. And it was like, wait. And all of a sudden they get in, and kind of all those feelings just kind of disappeared, at least for me. And Kyle Schwarber is a stud. I don't care what anybody says. This guy has the quickest hands I've seen in baseball in a long period of time. And I know people will say, well, Aaron Judge has 61 home runs. Yeah, that's all fine and dandy. Kyle Schwarber's got some quick hands. He's been to the playoffs. You could tell he's the one guy in that clubhouse that understands the playoffs, and he understands what it takes to get there. And I will give him a lot of credit for this. You come over for from another team, and you become the face of the franchise. He became the face of this team this year. There's no doubt in my mind. He was always stand up. He always stood up and took the interviews, did interviews. And the funny thing is, you bring up Alvarado. That may have been the first thing we heard from him all season long. Think about it. And to me, this is great, man. Postseason baseball, it starts Friday. Everybody should be fired up.
Yeah, it's a great feeling. It really is. And I look at this as a relationship similar to with maybe your siblings, where September, I was giving my sibling a little punch in the back. Beat him up a little bit. And I said some words maybe that were hateful. But at the end of the day, you hug it out, you shake hands, and you move forward. Yep. And that's what I'm doing with this Phillies team. It felt last night that we actually saw them be themselves, which made it relatable for us. How many times did we walk into this 95-degree studio and we touched on that nobody's in the ballpark, there's no relationship, you don't feel connected with anyone, yet watching Kyle Schwarber, watching Alec Boehm, watching these people in the clubhouse celebrate that way, Rob Thompson with the speech even though he doesn't know how to take the cork out, all of that stuff, like it felt like they were part of us, which maybe that helps us move forward when we watch them play. There's one name we haven't mentioned yet throughout all the electricity last night. How about Bryson Stott with the insurance home run? And Kyle Schwarber said, that's cute. I'll show you how it's really done. You went from wall scraper to 9,000-foot bomb. But what a beautiful night. It was a lot of fun.
What one guy that hasn't been brought up either? How about Reese? Did anybody see that interview?
Yes.
Man, that made me like him a lot.
Yeah.
Because that was true emotion that he was showing on the field when Pat McCarthy was interviewing him. That was outstanding. I mean, you can see tears in his eyes.
Yep.
I mean, that's like, you know what that's like? That's like going through like 4 or 5 years of hell, and then you finally are out of it.
Yeah, you're right about that. And when you think about his just individual path from like phenom that first year he comes up, tear the cover off the ball. Then they decide to take that and ruin his swing.
That was Clint, let's say it, Klentak and Kapler.
Right, tried to ruin his career and put him in left field.
Yeah.
I mean, ruin his swing and have him play a position he can't play.
Can you imagine him in left field right now?
Goodness. Like, say what you want about Schwarber. He's a million times. Listen, we're not going to rip him today. But back to first base, 30 home run season. It's money time for him, like individually. And the team, he ends up helping the team get there. And the likability thing. We can be honest that for 159 games, 160 games, they were not a particularly likable bunch. They were very, very likable and relatable after the game.
Is it because they were drinking?
Maybe they kind of let the guard down a little bit.
Yeah, they did. I thought that was I mean, you saw Alec Boehm carrying around your case of Miller Lite, which is absolutely outstanding.
Yeah.
I just think, you know what's great about a celebration like that? It's ad-libbed. Mm-hmm. Everything that happened last night that you saw on our post-game show, everything's ad-libbed. Everything's just kind of going with the flow of everything. I mean, with Topper, with the bottle. He didn't even know the cork was still in.
He was ready to take it.
Can't do that. Got to take that cork out first.
Down. They're going crazy. And then, now let me ask you guys this about Thompson real fast. If he doesn't get this job right now, how are we looking at this team? If it had been Girardi the whole way, and what would we be thinking about these? Where do you think the Phillies would be? We know where they are now. They're in the postseason. There's still a chance that they can get the second wild card, although it may not be such a good idea to get that second wild card. We can discuss that. Where would they be right now if they didn't go with Rob Thompson?
I don't think it's even close. Like, I was thinking maybe they'd be the Brewers, but honestly, they probably wouldn't even have as many wins to be where the Brewers are to somewhat possibly have a chance. They'd be a middle-of-the-road nonsense team that we probably don't even discuss, and then we look at the Eagles to fulfill our to satisfy us a bit because that's where we are as sports fans. I think they probably plummet.
I think you have to look at Dave Dombrowski. That was a brilliant move at that time during the season. And quite frankly, I know you guys watched. You see Joe Girardi's interviews. He checked out well before he was even fired. He had checked out. And I think this team needed a good look in the mirror. And what better way to do it? You bring in Topper. He's done an outstanding job. He's changed the attitude in the clubhouse. It's just not – I think they just took pressure off themselves. And I think they looked, and you could see that it kind of came back here in the last couple of weeks trying to get to that playoff spot. But when you take pressure off of the players, they just go out and play the game. And I think that's what happened. I think we would be pretty much talking about the last day of the season coming up.
Well, 610-632-0975. Yes, September was bad. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like everything in September was that the losing 10-13 was no good. But none of it's all wiped away now. Once you get in, now we can move on. They clinched, and we're going to talk about what the heck were you doing in your life 11 years ago, the last time they made the playoffs, because we cannot have another drought like this. We're talking about somebody who was elementary school the last time, high school the last time, all kinds of people. And this has to become the start, and hopefully it will be the start of this becoming a regular thing because it feels so good. 610-632-0975. We'll be back here on 97.5 The Fanatic and NBC Sports Philadelphia. Tom and them were fantastic last night also.
Awesome.
During the game, but then all that post-game stuff down there, they did such a good job. I'm not trying to pick a fight today. But if we see, because people called yesterday about this.
Here we go.
1-0 right away because that guy can do it. Now, if they had a Jimmy Rollins who was a more conventional type leadoff hitter with pop to do that, fine. But look what it did yesterday. Right away. If you're watching that game, and I was, because the Sixers started first, so I'm watching the Sixers preseason, and I get to there, and I'm ready, and right away they're up, and I'm relaxed. I'm more relaxed because the big man who's been there, he's the team MVP. Put him up 1-0. To me, I can argue about a lot of things. But when you see it in real time, can we just not argue about it till after the season's over? Everything else to me is fair game. But can we please do that? And now it's time for our Twitter poll with Jen Scordo.
All right. Who would you rather the Phillies face in the first postseason series? Cardinals, Mets, or Braves? Early votes have the Cardinals winning at 80%.
All right. Well, that's the most likely scenario.
Yeah.
That's the most likely scenario. Those teams all could happen. I'm not ready to move on to the playoffs yet. I'm just trying to relish in the fact that they're in the playoffs. They will likely be betting underdogs against all of the three of opponents.
Yeah, I agree. It's just amazing, though, to think about Kyle Schwarber. When you sign that big ticket and John Middleton lays out that cash, this was it right here. I mean, you get your leader, you get the guy that's going to change the clubhouse and show you how to get it done. I don't know without Kyle Schwarber where they are this season, not just with what he does with the bat in his hands, but there were some tough times. There were some tough stretches. You lose 10 of 13. It's September, and there's certain ways you got to hold yourself so other people kind of feed off of it, and he was a big, big, big piece to the pie.
Definitely an MVP of this team. I mean, you hit 46 home runs. You're an MVP of any team, but let's not forget to give honorable mention. JT.
Yes.
He turned his garbage around after we started ripping him apart for not being in that Toronto series.
Yep.
Can you imagine if it came down to that and they missed out by a game? Woo! He would have heard it at some point.
Yeah.
But, I mean, he turned everything around, and they did this a lot without Bryce Harper.
Yep.
And even when he's been back, they've done it a lot without Bryce Harper. That's pretty impressive.
It's a blessing and a curse because obviously we would want Bryce to deliver, but the fact that there is enough substance on the roster to hold it down when he's not playing excellent ball is a positive sign.
Yeah, it goes to when he went out, and we'll get to Malcolm and George in just 1 second. It goes to Harper goes down. They didn't panic at all as a group. We're talking about with the Eagles when they got down 14-0. They didn't panic on Sunday. Clubhouse didn't panic. And that comes from Thompson, obviously the manager, but it also comes from Schwarber. And then JT at that point starts hitting. Well, it took maybe a week or two, but then he starts hitting and becomes once again the best catcher in baseball. So he did it on the field. Schwarber to me did it both, on and off the field.
You got to look at that timeline with Schwarber. When he first came here, I think he knew he couldn't be the voice of the clubhouse right away.
Right.
But once you start hitting all those bombs, about 2 months in June, I think then he knew, okay, I'm part of this team. Now I'm going to start leading the way and showing these guys how to get to the playoffs. He's been there. He's done that. That's a good guy to follow. There's no doubt about it.
And boom, the big hits, those are stats also as well, but that guy stepped up in that moment, and this is not a knock on Bryce Harper. They're in. But Bryce has been, since he's returned, has been unable, maybe due to injury, to really deliver at the highest level for this team. So who does do it? The left fielder steps up and did it at such a high level, and so did the catcher and others. But to your question, I have no idea where they've been.
Yeah, I have no idea either. And to your point of earlier in the season, I mean, there was a time where he started out super slow, and he was getting a lot of questions. And all he said is, be patient. I've been playing this game for a long time. I'll be okay. And then he eventually had the hottest month that Kyle Schwarber tends to do every season.
He does do that every season. But it was funny because I remember him saying that, and I remember saying on one of the pre- or post-game shows that I'm not worried about him. Mm-hmm. He's been around way too long. He's going to figure it out. The guys that you do worry about was like Stott when he got sent down early in the season. Let him go figure himself out, then come back, which it turned out well for the Phillies there. I'm telling you, a lot of what Dave Dombrowski did this year is going to go under the carpet, but he did a lot of nice moves that helped this team in the long run. Look at the Alvarado move.
Yep.
You know what? Some guys need a little bit of a shock factor. Maybe, I think with the Alvarado thing, I think they wanted him to go down there and throw a lot of cutters. I don't even know if it was like it was a little performance-based at the big league level. But I think they were like, okay, we got to get him somewhere where he could throw some cutters and learn to use that pitch a lot more. It only took him, 2 weeks, and he was back and dealing.
Yep. And last thing, with that in mind, a few years ago, they had no one that can throw 95, whether gun's real or not, or higher. Having 3-4 guys this year, now they didn't all make it to the end, but that's the point. Have 3-4 guys, and that goes back to Dombrowski, who Clintack's thinking spin rate and all these other things. This guy comes in and goes, can you pitch? Obviously, that matter. And how many guys can I put into this bullpen who can throw hard?
Right.
And Sir Anthony had a nice stretch at some point. Robertson had a nice stretch.
Yep.
Alvarado now closes the season, another hard thrower with a nice stretch. They weren't even available during the Clintack years. You didn't even have one of those guys. There were years to enter year with not one of those guys. And Dombrowski, this should be simple, but look, it wasn't happening here. Made sure they had 3 or 4 guys that could throw hard. And surprise, surprise, you actually made it to the playoffs.
But they did have Brandon Workman.
Oh, don't even. I can't believe
with that 89. Meanwhile, you got throw a 98 cutter easy and walking off the mound with all
the 89 wasn't the problem. I think it was the hanging curveballs that were the big problem.
Yep. I can't believe we're sitting here today, and our best relievers is Zach Eflin and Jose Alvarado.
Hey, Eflin the ace came through, and that was... I am so happy that this finally happened.
I want to throw 2 things out there.
I was worried.
And I want to know what you guys and how Jen feels. I feel like, and I'm just a pre- and post-game guy, I feel like a piano was lifted off of this team's back.
Yes.
You're more than a pre- and post-man guy.
Yeah.
Well, you know what I mean. I'm just in the job that I do. I watch the team, and they're frustrating as can be, but you knew it was in there somewhere that they should be a lot better than certain times during the season. And I just feel like after their reactions yesterday, I feel like the piano came off their back.
I completely agree with that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Malcolm in Georgia, you're on 97.5 The Fanatic from Jen's original neck of the woods. What's up, Malcolm?
Good afternoon, everybody. How y'all doing?
Good, man.
Hey, so it's great that the Phillies got in the playoffs. I can finally get that sinking feeling of Ryan Howard tearing up his Achilles trying to get down to first base in that last series. Mm-hmm. And I can look forward to maybe some more positive moments from playoff history. I really enjoyed that clubhouse celebration. As a matter of fact, when I was listening to Rob Thompson and even John Middleton, there's a moment there where, I'm thinking to myself, maybe these guys can reset, the button and do something good in these playoffs. But my question to you guys are, do we think that the new guys and the young guys is enough for us to overcome some of the stuff that, because they're the ones that came through in the clutch. Even in that game last night, some of the old habits still popped up. But, it was Forber and Stock that came through. And do you think that they're enough to carry us through? And
Well, Malcolm, I think you're being a little bit of fatalist there. Like, even I'm saying that, like, okay, there's a reason the Astros have the best record in the AL. That was a good baseball team that's out there. That starter, after that, he was clean. That breaking ball was killing them after Schwarber's first home run. He realized that his fastball wasn't perfect. He destroyed them with breaking balls. Just because other guys didn't come through last night doesn't mean that they couldn't in the playoffs, though. Like, let's see. It's reset. I'm saying once they get there, it's all reset.
The only thing that's against them is I know Wheeler's a great pitcher, Nola. They've never been there.
Right.
Either one of them.
Right.
So those are going to be two guys that you're really kind of counting on. But I will go a little further and say I like their chances in a 3-game series. I don't care where the game's played. I just think with those two guys, once they settle in, if they don't have those rocky starts that everybody talks about in the playoffs, I don't think there's going to be much of a problem. I think what's Wheeler going to do? Give up 2 runs maybe in 6 or 7 innings?
Right.
That should give you an opportunity to win the game.
Yep, and just because Harper hasn't also lately doesn't mean he won't. Because he's done it.
He needs one good game here, though.
He does. Listen. 610-632-0975. All you guys that are waiting patiently, we'll get to on the other side. It's our longest segment of the hour here on 97.5 The Fanatic and NBC Sports Philadelphia.